Over 1,000 already.
Hello, and I'm Harlan Hill here with DML. This is our first time doing a broadcast together here from the studio. Aside from the walk and talk we did upstairs in the newsroom, it's great to be with you, Dennis. It's like I feel like this is a little bit of the past, you know, like from the Newsmax days.
Yeah,
it's funny how it's kind of full circle. I feel like one of my earliest hits on television was with you. And I feel like I kind of like got my training wheels, you know, working with you, and you taught me and you mentored me. And so it feels pretty awesome to come full circle. And now to be sitting here after building this with you, it's cool. It's special.
Are you vying for a raise?
No. Yeah.
That's what you're doing.
Well,
you're
I wouldn't argue against it.
Mark Suter says we're getting an echo.
Oh, we're getting an echo?
Yeah.
All right.
All right,
okay.
So go ahead. I'll let you go while I work this with Mark.
Yeah. So anyway, so I want to just tell you guys a little bit of breaking news that we have. We've been following the situation out of London at the House of Commons, which is their equivalent to Capitol Hill. At Westminster Palace, apparently a knife-wielding attacker was shot by armed police in the grounds of Parliament. Pedestrians were mowed down on Westminster Bridge. So apparently what happened was this guy, and they're treating the situation as a terrorist incident in London, he was in a car with some sort of SUV, mowed down 12 to 14 pedestrians on Westminster Bridge. It's a very crowded tourist area, you know, just as if you were on Capitol Hill and you'd see all kinds of Americans, you know, coming together to celebrate democracy. They're doing the same thing in the UK. Tourists from around the globe. And but it's a uniquely vulnerable place because it's also a living, breathing city. And this guy took advantage of it, ran his car into pedestrians, and then somehow, after running over all of these people on Westminster Bridge, was able to get into Parliament grounds, and he was able to attack several people. We know at least 4 people were on the ground, and police were administering CPR to them. Prime Minister Theresa May was immediately evacuated from the House of Commons. A plainclothes police officer threw her into a car and drove her away from the scene. That's how it was described by the Daily Mail. As I said, emergency teams were carrying out CPR outside on the palace grounds. I've actually spent a lot of time there because when I was younger, I worked in Parliament, and it's sort of amazing because these grounds really sort of merge with the street, and it is, you know, they've done their best to fortify it, but and thank God the police were able to stop this knifeman before he made too much more progress. So it's a developing situation. You can see behind us some of the footage on Westminster Bridge. Traffic is ground to a halt. But those are the details that we have right now. As it breaks, you know, if we get more details while we're sitting here talking to you guys, we'll make sure to bring it up. So yeah, that's the breaking news there. I mean, as I said, the police in the UK are treating this as a terrorist incident. We don't have a description yet of the attacker. That's something that you know, I don't want to prognosticate. I don't want to predict without any more information. But because they're treating this as a terrorist incident, I think we can read between the lines. So they described it actually as international terrorism. So anything to say on this, or?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't have any doubt that it's going to be terrorism. Yeah, I don't know why anybody in the news ever holds off on that sort of thing. That's a Hillary Clinton. Oh, let's just hold off. That's the one thing I loved about Trump, and you know, I guess he's got to be a little bit more careful now. Yeah. But look, if it smells like a rat and it moves like a rat, it's a rat. Yeah.
Well, police are calling it terrorism. I'm just not sure. Is it Islamic terrorism or is it domestic terrorism? You know, they've got Brexit going on. Maybe it's some radical lefty, you know, globalist that doesn't want to see them leave the European Union. I mean, that's possible too.
Yep. Absolutely.
You know, so I don't know. But you know, because they called it international terrorism, I would suspect that this is radical Islamic terrorism. So we'll see.
You know, I think it's important for us to tell everybody too that this is sort of just a test here. We are seeing how it is that this works with the two of us in here. Yeah. This is not going to be what our show is at 8:30 every night. It's going to be more structured, walk and talks. We still have to figure out how we're going to be doing that. I guess some days it will be you, some days it will be me, whatever it may be. But for the most part, we're testing this out. So if you see something that's problematic, aside from the shiny couch, please make sure you tell us. I mean, we're still here sitting in our sweatshirts and stuff of that nature. So we appreciate that. So I'm going to let Harlan spearhead this whole thing because I had almost a 2-hour drive here. So I didn't even know that this was taking place in the UK. So I'm a little bit.
It happened right before you got here.
Right before I got here?
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, anything you want to talk about, let's lead it that way.
Okay.
I hope you have some immigration and healthcare stuff on your plate.
I do. I mean, well, you and I talked a little bit about this because it's so outrageous, but this last-minute addition to the healthcare bill by congressional Republicans to open the door to non-citizens to enjoy the tax credits that are in Trump Care or Ryan Care, whatever you want to call this thing. And it's particularly outrageous. We actually had a quote from Lou Barletta, the Republican congressman from Pennsylvania. He said, "I'm concerned that the bill lacks sufficient safeguards for verifying whether or not an individual applying for the healthcare tax credit is lawfully in this country and eligible to receive them." And so the concern here is that in this new bill that's being put forth as the alternative to Obamacare, the repeal and replacement, it opens the door to illegal immigrants in this country receiving health care benefits, and they may not even be paying taxes. So why they would add this at the last minute? This modification was reported by Reuters, and you guys can read more on this on DennisMichaelLynch.com. But I just don't understand it. Like, what would be the impetus for this?
There is a poll on DennisMichaelLynch.com today. And I made this poll. Some days I make the poll, some days I don't make the polls. I made this poll today based on the emails that I was getting from all you folks. And people are coming in by the droves and saying, DML, I have tried so hard, but everything that I'm learning about this healthcare bill is concerning me more and more and more, and I'm losing confidence in President Trump. What can we do? And of course, then you always get these emails from people, like I got another one today, stating the fact that President Trump is not going to get his health care bill because of people like myself and people because of Laura Ingraham, and who are now going against, we've turned on the president. I don't know if I should feel bad for those people who say those sort of things, or whether I should just completely ignore them. I tend to feel bad for them, and I think what it is that there's so much passion and there's so much hope right now tied into this presidency that whenever anything doesn't go in the right direction, they look to point blame at somebody. So I want to be very clear on what I'm about to say.
Okay.
If the president continues to push this in the way that he's pushing this, it's going to be really hard to hold on to that Trump train. And I know that sounds crazy in one sense, because you'll say, wait a second, it's only 60 days. I have been around long enough. I think you've been around long enough. I have watched this stuff. I have actually been engaged in this stuff. This is why they say the first 100 days are so important. This sets the precedent. If he can't get his own team, the Republicans, to jump on behind this bill, he's going to have a hard time no matter what he does. Now, that said, if I were in the House and I were in the Senate, no matter how hard I've championed for Donald Trump in the past, there's no way I would champion for this bill. Look at what you just said. Illegal aliens. Illegal aliens, they shouldn't even be here. They should be sent home, let alone they're going to be able to, if they want to, get involved in getting health care. What the hell is going on?
I don't know.
This is crazy. I don't understand how the president is even considering any of this.
Well, and what they did was, to get specific, because I think this is important, is in a last-minute change to the bill, they removed a provision that would have allowed the Treasury Department to access data at the Department of Homeland Security to make sure that healthcare tax credits, which are just, it's not a tax refund, it's a credit, to make sure that these tax credits are going only to U.S. citizens and legal permanent residents that are paying taxes, not to illegal immigrants. Why would they take that out? Like, what would be the rational reason for that? I can't, I'm trying to come up with an excuse, like, oh, maybe they made a mistake.
There are no excuses.
But I can't.
Another person sent me something today that said, Paul Ryan. Yeah, I know Paul Ryan is no good.
Yeah.
I know Paul Ryan is not in the president's corner, if you will. But let's keep in mind something. Our job here and your job is to keep the president accountable. You can love the president, but he's got to love you back. And so what I say to this is that you can blame Ryan all you want, But let's not forget about how many times we've touted that the president is a very wise man and that he's a very smart man and that he's going to make America great again. And you can only blame Paul for so much. The president is not having his arm twisted.
Yeah.
Nobody can twist Donald Trump's arm. That's one thing we've all learned.
Absolutely.
He is not going to be influenced. He is not going to be bombarded and railroaded. He's going to be his own guy. And the fact that he's actually telling people in the GOP, if you don't vote for this, you're going to lose your seat come 2018. I totally disagree. I think if you do vote for this, you will lose your seat in 2018. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. If I were in there, if I were a representative, I would go into the president's office, close the door, and say, President Trump, what are you doing? I can't support this. If the president told you to jump off a bridge, are you going to jump?
No.
I'm not jumping.
No, I'm not jumping.
If he told you to write a check tomorrow to some crazy charity that you didn't have faith in, would you write the check? Of
Probably
course.
not.
Probably not. Okay, so the fact of the matter remains is that we can support the president all we want until the president doesn't support a program that supports us. And this is an absolute disaster. And I don't know what else you want to talk about, but I have very passionate thoughts. Okay. A lot of times people ask, what's the solution, right? What's the solution? If I were Jared Kushner, because I'm guessing at this point he's probably the one guy aside from Ivanka who can sit down with him and say, listen, I wish I had that opportunity. I would say to him, listen, you now have guys like DML, you've got Ann Coulter, you've got, it's endless.
Ingram.
On how many, Laura Ingram, people who were championing for you left and right are now starting to show that they want to try to be as faithful as they can, but they have to be faithful to the American people first. And so we're having no choice but to be steered in this direction. That we have no choice. We know it's bad. I would say to him, it's not too late. When it becomes too late is when his John Hancock is on that thing. And honestly, I don't even think it's going to get the votes anyway. But what's happening now is that he is so consumed, I think, just knowing his personality, into getting the win, into not getting the loss on this one, to getting the win, that I think he's blocking out what happens with this thing. This will be attached to him forever. The greatest thing he can do is say, you know what? I'm stopping. We just don't have all the things that we need in place for this thing in place. I'm stopping this. Stop. Let's go back to the drawing board. I'm a businessman. I've been around long enough to know that, it's not until that first piling goes in that you can't change the way the design looks. Hit the brakes, stop. We're going to stay in love with them. We'll say, hey, we appreciate that. Don't take us off the cliff. You want to take us to the cliff? That's one thing. Don't take us off the cliff. And I think that in 2 weeks from now, the way the news cycles go, especially when you look at stuff like this, people will forget about it. And they'll be like, okay, he's going back to the drawing board. He has to do that. If he doesn't do that, he's in trouble. He's in trouble.
Well, we'll see. I don't anticipate. I think you're right. I think that he is so consumed with the win that at this point his ego is telling him that he can't go back, that he's too far down. Now, a week and a half ago, I think he could have walked this back. I think his ego would have allowed him to do it. But now that he's gone to the Hill and he's applied pressure very publicly to Republicans in the House, I think that it would be devastating to his ego and to how his supporters perceive him to walk it back now. I hear your point, but...
Devastating to his ego. Devastating to his presidency.
I hear that.
And this is why he needs to... I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Kellyanne Conway and Steve Bannon are too intimidated at this point. I don't know if they're saying these sort of things to him and he's just not listening. I have no idea. But I would sit there and say to him, I understand your ego. I understand your ego. Believe me, I got one myself. But you got to pull off this because you're never going to be able to recover from this. If he won't be able to get tax reform done correctly, and once people have to start paying the higher premiums, they're never going to forgive them.
Yeah.
They're never going to forgive them. Anybody is willing to forgive for a mistake. I mean, look at Bill Clinton, what he did to Monica Lewinsky, and people still forgave him.
Yeah.
We can forgive him for this. Just walk away from it. Hey, it was a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think showing some modesty here would actually give him a boost.
Yeah, maybe
And
so.
that's what he hasn't figured out yet.
Yeah.
You know, modesty. I made a mistake, but I didn't take us off the cliff.
Yeah.
And walk it back.
Yeah. Well, and I promise, guys, we're not going to pile on the whole time, but there's one more thing I wanted to bring up that's related to immigration that I don't quite understand. It seems as though we're not able to walk and chew gum at the same time because, you know, it seems like this White House, and I don't blame Trump entirely for this, but it seems like we're just focusing on one issue at a time, whether it was the travel ban or now this. But what about the wall? What about tax reform? What about these sanctuary cities? You know, we just had this report on DennisMichaelLynch.com today about 206 illegal alien criminals released from, Texas sanctuary city, for lack of a better term. They ignored immigration officials and they released them. They've designated the county as a sanctuary county. The new sheriff just took it into his own hands and he decided this is what we're going to do.
Well, the big story right now
Yeah.
on the major outlets is the story of the rape that took
Yes.
place in Montgomery County, Maryland.
Yeah.
Now, I am very, very familiar with Montgomery County
Yeah.
in Maryland. In fact, if anybody out there has watched, I think it is They Come to America 2. I actually deal with the sheriff. That was the sheriff at the time in Montgomery County, and one of the political heads that were there. And in Rockville, Maryland, this is where this took place.
Yes.
Rockville, Maryland, the nickname for that place is called the Belly of the Beast. And they call it the Belly of the Beast because the illegal immigration there is so bad. It is so unbelievable. When I have speeches, and I went to Rockville, we had standing room where people couldn't get in.
Really?
Yeah, because it's such a problem in Rockville. When I gave a speech at Rockville at the public library, they actually had to have cops. I had a cop escort. I had cops in the library. I had cops downstairs.
Yeah.
You know, and in fact, if you saw They Come to America 2 again, it's when the kids have the tape over their mouth. That's where they're coming in. This is why you hear me champion all the time for E-Verify and to cut off the magnet. These people shouldn't be here. And this is why I say about the whole thing about criminals, you know, deporting criminals, drug addicts, drug dealers, and gang members first. The crime's already done. You know, these people aren't hurting the Americans. They're hurting each other. Gang members usually kill gang members. Drug dealers usually kill drug dealers. You know, it's not, you know, getting rid of criminals, it's too late. The crime's already committed.
Yeah.
If you cut off the magnet for people to be able to get jobs in this country, they will go home. They will go home. And what's happened here, and this is why I'm also frustrated. This is why I'm frustrated. And I don't understand until he explains to me why. And I don't want to hear about some strategy up the sleeve. Listen, this isn't a hard thing. You cut off the magnet, these people and their families will go home. You have to smoke them out.
Yeah.
And then young girls in school won't be raped. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, this has nothing to do with travel bans. You know, I'm telling you, I've thought about this so much in the past 24 hours.
Yeah.
You know, if you go back to a walk and talk I did back in January, I said one of the first things that the president should do is tax reform. Why? Because tax reform gives money to everybody, Democrats and Republicans.
It should be easy. It's the easiest thing he could do.
And therefore, you put money into a Democrat's pocket. All of a sudden, you're not such a bad guy anymore. But that's not what's happening. One of the other first things you did was mandatory E-Verify with mandatory enforcement and mandatory, crazy fees. You fight fire with fire. That's a line item.
And the infrastructure is mostly there, right?
It's there. It's there. It's so easy, and I can't understand why he hasn't done it. And if he would have done that, the deportations, A lot of them would have been just, I mean, you would really be able to see the difference at the 7-Eleven and the Home Depot. You don't see those differences right now.
Yeah.
There's no differences. And I don't want to hear about how it's only 60 days.
Yeah.
These are the low-hanging fruits that the president can do and be able to check things off the list.
Yeah. Well, and I got to get back to this story for a second, because what are the consequences for a sheriff, for law enforcement, ignoring detainers from federal immigration officials saying, don't release these guys? You know, in this one county, among the people released were suspected of homicide, convicted of arson, and sentenced for aggravated assault, DUIs, and other offenses. Like, you know, these aren't people you want on the streets, many of them, you know? Like, so there have to be consequences. If one of these people get out and they commit another homicide or some other crime, shouldn't that sheriff that ignored the federal detainer be held responsible in some way?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is that happening right now? I don't know. No?
Okay. Nobody's being held accountable for anything.
At all.
This is why I always say we are chasing problems.
Yeah.
We are chasing problems. This girl's rape is too late. The stuff you're talking about is too late.
Yeah.
Kate Steinle is too late. And these are just the stories that are getting attention. This sort of thing happens every single day in large numbers in the United States of America. Mm-hmm. And the reason being is because these people, by and large, are here because they're working and they've got jobs. If you take away that magnet, a lot of these stories will start to go away.
Yeah.
And what is wrong with that? What is wrong with asking that to go away? Even, one of the things in the new budget, they have it so this way. There is, President Trump has mandatory E-Verify, the enforcement of, he has it as a budget line item.
Yeah.
But he's got it at $15 million. Are you kidding me? For the country.
Yeah.
It's $300,000 per state. I need $300,000 in my own county.
Yeah.
In my own town.
Yeah.
$300,000 per state. It's trying to buy a Mercedes-Benz with the money that you get back from the deposits on your Coke can.
Yeah.
You just can't
do
it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And this is why people, I think what some of the very passionate Trump supporters, and I understand this so much, I try to convey it, and I don't know if it ever comes out well. After 8 years of Barack Hussein Obama, people really believed that this country was going to absolutely collapse if Hillary Clinton was voted president.
Yeah.
And I'm one of them. Mm-hmm. And so when you got a guy like Trump, who has all of the check boxes, businessman, billions of dollars, an ego that if it's placed the right way, can work for you.
Yeah.
Name recognition, media savviness, you put all those things in there. He was the perfect guy for this job. Yeah. And he still can be. Yeah. We're only 60 days into this thing. Mm-hmm. But this is why the 100 days is so important. This sets the precedent. We still got 40 days, 50 days, 60 days for him to sort of change courses a little bit. You know what the best thing would have been? And I'm not a legislator, so I may be a little bit off base here. I wish we had somebody like Dick Morris on with us right now. There are things that he could have done with Obamacare and still can do, and says, you know what? Now I know he put the executive order that you could not be held accountable for the mandate of having to pay tax if you did not have the health insurance. He could have just eliminated the business mandate in Obamacare. You know how much that would have done? I would be taking this thing apart brick by brick.
That's what they promised to do originally. That's what we were promised, is that we were going to get a bunch of different bills, just pull different pieces out, pass it.
Slowly,
done.
Just brick, brick. Here's another thing, and then I'm going to let you speak, because I'm dominating this, and it's not right. But again, in the last 24 hours, I have just been, Mary and I were up last night until 1 o'clock in the morning talking about all this. And I think it's because it's such a pivotal time right now for the president. Barack Hussein Obama was a horrible president in terms of what it was that he believed was America. The fundamental transformation, right, was, as far as we're concerned, horrible. However, you cannot deny how effective he was. Mm-hmm. he got everything done.
Yeah.
He's got illegal aliens, and he's got people from the Middle East coming in here at rates that we've never seen before. He got Obamacare passed. He got same-sex marriage. He got, I mean, you could just keep on going down the line, down the line, down the line, down the line. He didn't do it through tweets. He didn't do it through trying to threaten people. If you don't pass this, you're not going to get reelected. You know what he did? He did it quietly. He did it quietly in the background.
Yeah.
And we woke up one day, we're like, wait a second, capture and release program? How did that happen? We didn't have news programs about it. You know, Trump always says, if I'm going to kill ISIS, I'm not going to tell him what I'm going to do next.
Yeah.
He should take that same principle and start applying it to these other different things.
Yeah.
Just get below the radar screen and just start getting things done. And let us see that the crowd at Home Depot is not there anymore.
Yeah.
Let us see that all of a sudden business mandates are ripped out of there.
Yep.
Kill the Democrats and Obama's legacy by a million cuts.
Yep.
Not by trying to get the one big huge bazooka. Because all that's going to do, it's going to come back on him.
Well, we know why this happened. If Trump was sitting down and was coming up with the strategy to repeal and replace Obamacare himself, he would not have done what Ryan did. But he outsourced it to Ryan. That's what I think happened. And Ryan came up, he pulled something off the shelf that he had, and he's doing it the way that Washington would, with this big bill, and they're going to sprinkle a lot of sugar in there to get the New York Republican delegation in, and pulling in support from around the country. They're going to sweeten it. That's what they're doing. That's what Washington has done for a long time. What Trump promised to do originally is exactly what you've described: this dismantling of Obamacare by a million cuts. And so I'm not sure what happened. I don't know why he outsourced this to Ryan, but if he does it on some of the other big important issues, like tax cuts, I'm not really confident that we're going to get much done at all.
Well, that's what's.
So is he setting? Maybe he's setting Ryan up to fail,
Right.
or am I reading too much into this? I mean, I'm trying to come up with an excuse for the guy. You know?
And that's why I wrote my op-ed the other day. I'm not making excuses anymore.
I know.
You know, so I want us to hold him accountable.
Okay.
I don't want to see him fail. He fails, I fail.
Yeah.
You know, somebody wrote me an email yesterday. Said, "Hey DML, you know, you always tout about how you're always so right." Yeah, all right. You know, I got a good track record. I think I'm at like 99 wins and 1 loss.
Yeah.
And the woman said to me, and in fact, I can't think of what the loss is in terms of something I said would predict. You know what she came back and said? She goes, "Are you starting to feel wrong about Trump? You think I want to be wrong about Trump? All my other wins will look like nothing."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It will be like, oh, he was one of the guys, him and Hannity and whatever. We're going to lose credibility.
Yeah.
I don't want to see myself lose credibility, and I certainly don't want to see the president do badly.
No.
I want to see America be great again.
Yes.
But at this point right now, you have to question,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
Why did he hand this over to Ryan, if that's what you're saying? Why? He's got to know that Ryan's a snake in the grass. He's got to know that Ryan doesn't have his best interests in play.
No.
And he's setting Ryan up. What does that do for you and me if he's setting up Ryan? What does that do?
Yeah.
It does nothing.
Yeah.
It does nothing.
Yeah.
Why would you do that for? It's like me saying to you, hey, part of our strategy here for building this is we have to take down Chris Ruddy at Newsmax. You'd be like, why are you wasting your time with that?
Yeah.
Why? He's irrelevant.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. Well, no, why? I don't need to take him down to put us up. He's
Yeah.
irrelevant. Blow him off. Never talking about him again.
Right.
So when you talk about that, about taking him down, I read these comments from people. I say, my goodness. And what it is you're trying to come up with excuses.
I know.
And
It
ultimately, there is no excuse.
Yeah.
The excuse is this. Circle yourself with people who you love and trust and who know this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I'm telling you, and you could send me the ego emails all you want. If President Trump right now had around him Dennis Michael Lynch, Laura Ingraham, and Rudy Giuliani, those three people, I think he would be able to turn the ship around.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why I take those three people.
Okay.
Not only do we know what we're talking about with this stuff,
Yeah.
but the three of us will not become yes men and women to him.
Yeah.
We're not. The three of us have big enough egos and enough confidence in what we know that we would say to him, put down that Twitter now or I walk out.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't have that. He has these people being like, okay, Mr. Trump, okay, President Trump, okay, President Trump. You know, that's not the way this works. That's why Ivanka being in the White House, I'm thrilled about this. It's a bit unconventional, but I'm thrilled about this for one reason. She's going to say, Dad, don't do that.
Yeah.
And he's going to listen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Well, let's put a bow on this this one immigration story about the sanctuary county. Apparently, Attorney General Sessions said it's not acceptable for jurisdictions to refuse to cooperate with federal law enforcement by releasing criminal aliens back into communities when our law required them to be deported. He continued, the Department of Justice will use lawful authority to ensure that criminals who are illegally in this country are detained and removed swiftly, and to hold accountable jurisdictions that willfully violate federal law. Well, how about, I appreciate holding accountable jurisdictions that willfully violate federal law, but how about holding accountable the specific individual so that you have a sheriff who was just put into place, who has elected not to follow the law? How about holding him personally accountable for this decision? I know I mentioned that earlier, but that's not what Attorney General Sessions has said. And I like AG Sessions, but
the voters have to ultimately, sheriffs are elected, so they ultimately have to hold them accountable. That was the other thing. That's the other thing about Trump's presidency, is that he promised to be the law and order president.
But he's obstructed the law. He's acting in defiance of federal officials.
I understand that. But do you remember the same thing with Kate Steinle?
Yeah.
Harlan, nothing gets done. This is why Trump was elected, to change this, to put law and order back into place.
Yeah.
That's what I'd love to see start happening in a big, huge way.
Yeah.
Now, on a side note, remember, we're doing a little bit of a test here, right? So I'm looking, this is the first time I've ever been able to look at the comments as I'm doing a walk and talk. First time ever.
Yeah.
Because you're always like this. You can't read them. Yeah. You can, because you're a smarter guy than I am when it comes to that stuff. But they're saying that I'm too lit and you're not lit enough.
I know.
Understand this. There is a skylight. You can't see it, but there's a skylight above our head, and it's noon, so the stuff is coming in, and that's why. This won't be like this usually. We'll cover that up in past, but don't worry about the lighting stuff.
Yeah,
but we appreciate it.
Yeah, we can definitely cover that. I mean, it'll help a lot because as the day progresses, you can see it. We've got a robot camera on it, so we'll cover that thing. So you want to move on from immigration?
Yeah. Move on from immigration. There you go. You got it.
Yeah, he got it on there. Yeah.
Tim got it on there. There you go. There's the killer spotlight.
Yeah. So anyway, okay. The next thing, and this was very concerning, but not at all surprising. You might remember that Paul Manafort was the chairman of Donald Trump's campaign for quite some time.
Never liked him.
You never liked him. And I always thought it was suspicious that he was thrown out on his behind so quickly.
Yeah.
There were some accusations, but there was very little substance to back them up. But when they pushed him out the door very quickly and quietly, I knew there's something more here. So what I suspect, I've been on enough campaigns where I know one of the first things we do is we go and hire an oppo guy, opposition research, and they come back with binders. I don't even know how they come up with this much material on people.
Right.
But binders full of information on people. And they probably did this to Paul. My concern is they probably waited too long to do this on Paul. I think for a big campaign like Trump's, you should be doing opposition research on every major employee that you bring in. Maybe every employee. Every employee that's going to be at Trump Tower should have had some oppo research done on them. I know Hillary, for instance, would. Democrats do this. Even me personally, when I'd be hired on some campaigns, they would look into me. Well, it's come out. The Associated Press has a report, and we published this on DennisMichaelLynch.com, that the chairman had some ties with a Russian billionaire, Oleg Deripaski. I don't know. I mean,
better you than me.
I don't know. You can tell I'm not friends with Putin. I'm not.
Better you than
my
me.
Russian is no good.
I just say some guy.
Some billion.
I just say some guy with a name. Okay.
So apparently Manafort worked with this guy to advance the interests of his ally, Russian President Vladimir Putin. The report stands in contrast to claims that were made by the Trump campaign that he never worked or had previous engagements with Russian interests. Manafort's apparent dealings stem back to the era of the George W. Bush administration, and they were surrounding tensions between the United States and Russia. So apparently in 2006, Manafort signed a $10 million annual contract to begin work with this billionaire, and they maintained a cordial business relationship until at least 2009. So at the very least, we know that Manafort didn't tell us the truth, because publicly he said that he had no dealings with the Russians. And, so this just doesn't, and I don't blame Trump for this. This isn't his fault. He's not the one doing opposition research. He's relying on the people around him. I think for this, I give him a pass. I chalk this up to either an employee that lied to him or inadequate research on an employee that you've hired. I don't know which one it is, but it's concerning because in his proposal to get this business, Manafort sent a memo, and he touted a strong relationship with Putin's government and their policies. So this doesn't look good.
Of course it doesn't look good. Look, at the end of the day, whether you want to blame Trump or don't want to blame Trump, we live in a society where perception is often mistaken for reality.
Yeah.
Okay? And so there is going to be a push by the left, a heavy push by the left, that will say, well, look, Trump is the CEO, Trump is the boss, Trump is the head of his own campaign, if you think about it. I mean, at the end of the day, I could hire you to do my campaign, but at the end of the day, I'm the guy in head.
Yeah.
So, whether it's a business, whether it's with a campaign, it always falls in the lap of the guy who's in charge. So the left is going to push that heavily. Yeah. Heavily. This is what I'm talking about. This is just another thing he now has to contend with. And that's why I want people to realize the fact, and I write about this stuff all the time. If you think the first 60 days was tough, it was nothing. It's going to get a whole lot harder, a whole lot worse. Because the other thing that there is the whole wounded animal thing, right? Yeah. You get a raccoon, and you know it's wounded, and you corner it in the corner. Now the thing's going to start going all crazy to try to get out of it. Have you ever seen that happen before? This is what's going to happen. Because the left sees, and anybody who's anti-Trump sees, that the cracks are there. And so if there was ever a time for President Trump to change the narrative, the time is now. The time is now. He's got to change the narrative and just start getting what I keep on calling that low-hanging fruit, that low-hanging fruit. You come out and you say, you know what, I looked at this Trump care thing one more time. In fact, you know how we can turn this? It just hit to me. Here you go. I've been working with Congress. I've been hearing the concerns of some. I've been hearing the benefits from others.
Right.
And ultimately, I want to get the American people a health care program that will ease the pain.
Right.
And unfortunately, the direction in which this has taken doesn't ease the pain of the Americans that are out there. And I don't care if you're a left or a right.
Yeah.
So you know what? Being the president, I'm going to say, stop. I've gotten too many messages from the American people that they don't want this. And that's ultimately who I work for. Yep. And we're going to stop. Whether Paul Ryan likes it or doesn't like it, we're going to stop, and we're going to go back to the drawing board.
Yep. Well,
boom. And then you turn around and you put in mandatory E-Verify. You write a little order to pull out the business mandate of Obamacare, and you start going back to the drawing board of doing these little tiny hits. Boom, 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 boom. You change the narrative. Yep. It's the only way he's going to change the narrative now is to start producing quick results. Stuff where the courts aren't going to get involved.
No.
You know?
Yeah. Well, and I just wanted to let you guys know that we do have confirmed reports that at least one woman has been killed as a result of the terrorist attack in London. Several others have sustained catastrophic injuries and are in critical condition. So we know that there were at least 10 to 12 victims of one type or another. But the situation is very fluid. The local hospital there near the Houses of Parliament confirmed that at least one woman has died. But no new information yet on the suspect who was shot by police on the scene. So we're monitoring it. We're going to keep filling you guys in, putting stuff on DennisMichaelLynch.com. But I just want to make sure I threw that in. The next thing I wanted to talk about is something that's kind of been flying under the radar with all this discussion, at least here in the United States. With all this discussion of healthcare and a lot of our domestic policy, we've lost sight of what's happening in North Korea. And the situation seems to have really escalated. You know, now we have this guy who's just a total nut job, saying that he might strike the United States or one of our allies first, a preemptive strike with nuclear weapons. We know that they tried to conduct another missile launch yesterday, and the U.S. military officials have said that it was fired and exploded within seconds of launch. The attempted launch was in a North Korean East Coast city, and the United States, Japan, and South Korea have merely confirmed that it happened, but they won't go into more detail. What do you think about this guy? Because this, to me, this feels like something that could really escalate and get out of hand. And because the Chinese are involved, it concerns me. I mean, it feels like a new Cold War in a way, because they support and prop up this tin pot dictatorship. We support democratic South Korea, and we're not going to fight China directly. But if North Korea really starts acting aggressively and they were to attack one of our allies, we are obliged to respond. And that really puts us at odds with China. I mean, the world could be on a nice edge there. I mean, this isn't hyperbole. I mean, this is something that's really happening. You're not hearing any of this in the mainstream media.
No, you're not. And you know what? And that's, you want to talk about blame on Trump or no blame on Trump. This is one area where I put absolutely zero blame on Trump.
Yeah.
And I do put the blame on the media.
Yeah.
Because they are so gung-ho on taking him down that they have lost sight of what their job is, and that is to inform the American people. So to that degree, I'm listening to you say that you're concerned.
Yeah.
When I was studying this stuff 2 years ago, one of the things in interviewing people, whether they were a general or whatever it may be,
yeah,
they would come back and say to me, here's where the real danger exists for the United States. We were always so more advanced than these other nations, and so we were able to escalate and build our strength so much greater and faster than these other places, and that's why we're so dominant. With time, it's sort of like you sort of peter out a little bit. Then you take Obama and shrinking our military.
Yeah.
These other countries have been developing. And because more technology is now involved in creating these sort of weapons and the whole controls of them, technology, you put us on a technology, it's a level playing field.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when war is now at a keyboard versus, a machine gun. So what's happened is that the delta between where we are and where the other people are narrowing down.
Yeah.
So I am completely nervous about something like this.
Yeah.
But I would like to believe that behind the scenes, because they don't want to scare the living,
Sure.
They don't want to scare everybody to stay in their homes and to start not living their lives.
Yeah.
I would like to believe that the military and Trump are doing things behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Now, just yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, Trump, the White House came out and said that they're going to consider sanctions. So what do you think on that? You think sanctions will do anything in this particular case? Or
I don't think it's enough. Well, here's what I've studied North Korea a fair amount, and it seems that in large part their economy is entirely propped up by the Chinese. They export a lot of coal to China. They manufacture a lot of stuff that's sent to China and is consumed in local markets there. But they're really reliant on the Chinese. If the Chinese wanted to get a hold on the North Koreans, they could. And so it concerns me that the Chinese aren't taking an active role in trying to put them down. So what that tells me, and I wish we had a military expert here to weigh in on this, is that the Chinese have tacitly endorsed this North Korean aggression. And that's the concerning part. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure we flagged that, because this is a story that's not getting very much mainstream media play in this country, but abroad it is, especially if you're in South Korea or Japan. And people forget we have military bases there, both in South Korea and in Japan. And so many of our armed forces are in the way. And we will be drawn into a conflict there if there is one. So,
this is not what people want.
No, it's not. This is not what everyday Americans want on Main Street. This isn't what Wall Street wants. And even to his credit, Barack Obama told Donald Trump that one of the greatest foreign policy crises that he would face during his administration would be North Korea.
North Korea. Yeah.
Though, I mean, I don't know what Barack Obama did to mitigate those concerns. You know, in the case of Iran, he made it worse. So, but at least he was being honest. So. Yeah.
All right. Well, we got to wrap it up.
Yep. It was good talk, though. Anyway, as Dennis said earlier, we're testing. I know the lighting's not perfect. We got to cover that skylight up there, and we will. And we'll get some of the other artificial lighting in here, right? But it's all a work in progress, and we have the real show coming up. So don't think that this is going to be the format that we're going to go with.
No, it's not at all.
This is like a rehearsal.
Yeah, and we have more furniture coming in. We ordered it. It should be here. Everything is always getting delayed.
Yeah.
You know, furniture companies. You want to make a fortune? Start a furniture company delivery service that comes overnight. But we'll have more furniture and whatever. We're going to read your comments. We're going to see where they were, good and bad, ill and different. But if you do want to send us something, go to DennisMichaelLynch.com. Go to the submit news button at the top of the nav bar, whether you're on mobile or if you're on desktop, and just send us that way. It's the easiest way for us to get it versus sending to the email address wetrustdml@gmail.com. It's easier when you use the submit because that gives access to everybody on my team. So not only that, and if you haven't downloaded the app yet, I can only urge you, again, download the app. We put this on the app today. We try and actually we're simultaneously, right? We're
simultaneously.
We're broadcasting right now to Facebook and to the app and to YouTube and to our website all at the same time. So we're doing a lot of that testing stuff, and that's why we sort of tried different camera angles and we tried different stuff. So bear with us. So if you haven't downloaded the app, you should do that now. You go to the iOS store, you go to the Google Play Store, you look for Dennis Michael Lynch or the DML app, and you download it. And again, I want to say thank you to everybody. The donations continue. People going to DennisMichaelLynch.com/donate. We keep on getting them in every day. And I think on Sunday, Mary and I are going to open some more of the things that people are sending us in. Do you mind if I open your gift?
Do it, please. Please do it.
because I have them sitting on the counter. And Mary's
the suspense
like,
is killing me. I want to know what's in that box.
Mary's like, are you gonna take these two things for home? And I'm like, I can't do it. And she left. I'm like, I want to open them. I'm kidding. I forgot them again today. So we'll just open them. If it's something I really like, I'll keep it.
Okay.
And otherwise, I'll give it to you. All right. I'm kidding, by the way. All right. So thank you very much. And until tomorrow.
Yep.
God bless you. God bless our troops. God bless President Trump. God bless Tim for doing a pretty good job on his first shot on this. And God bless America. We shall see you tomorrow.